Alright, hello. So I'll be showing you how to install and use Webpack with React and TypeScript. The first thing that you'll want to do is, I'm assuming you have Create React app if you're watching this. So you'll want to do npx create React app, and then the name of your application. So in this case, we'll just use TS example, TypeScript example, and then we can use a template of TypeScript. And I'll just let that run. Next, we'll want to cd into the project that we've created. So cd into your project, and now we need the following dependencies. We need Webpack, which is obvious, Webpack CLI, Webpack dev server, so that's for the dev server. CSS loader, mini CSS extract plugin, so this is to extract and load the CSS. File loader, which is for things like SVGs and pictures and so on. And we'll need the HTML Webpack plugin, and that's for your index.html to use that as a template. And a TypeScript loader, and that's to take your TypeScript and convert it into ES6 using Webpack. And Webpack env, and you'll need this if you're using hot modules to like reload your web page when you're doing development. We can go ahead and install these, and then I'll show you what to do next. After those dependencies are installed, open your IDE, and now we'll want to open package.json. And we'll want to change the start and the build scripts. And we're not using React scripts anymore, we're going to be using Webpack, right? So let's just change this to start dev, and we'll change this to Webpack and then serve. And in previous versions, we've used a Webpack dev server to actually start the dev server, but now in the new version of Webpack, we use Webpack serve. And to build our application, we'll want to use Webpack and then specify the config file. And the config file we'll create, and we'll just call it webpack.config.js. And we can go ahead and create that file. And we'll name it webpack.config.js. And we can use the template that's given to us on webpack.js.org, and I'll leave a link to this in the description. We'll just copy the webpack.config.js and go back to the IDE and paste that into our file. And the first thing is, if we look into our source folder, we can see that it's a TSX file. So we'll just change this to TSX. And next we'll need to resolve things like the CSS that we're bringing in, and also the SVG. This is an SVG file. And also our index.html template. And in this index.html template, we'll need to remove the environmental variables, but I'll show you that later. And now we can bring in our plugins that we installed. So const mini CSS extract plugin, and then require that, and that is mini CSS extract plugin. And then the other one was our HTML Webpack plugin, and then same, just require that. Now that we have those, we can define some more rules. Things like for the CSS. So make a test, and we'll want to use .css files. So that's .css, and then just a $, and then we can close that off. And then we want to specify which loaders that we're using. So create an array, because we'll be using both the mini CSS extract plugin and then also the CSS loader. So specify the constant that we define, and then we want to use that loader. And then the other loader we want to use is the CSS loader. And we can exclude our node modules. And I believe that looks good. Continuing on, we want to specify our file loader, and specifically things like the SVG and our tsx file. So add a test, and we'll want to test multiple files. So add dot and then parentheses and then whatever files that you want to test. In our case, we'll just have SVG, and then maybe also you'll have some PNGs and an ICO. And then we'll need to close that off with a $sign and then a slash. Next, we'll want to specify the loader, right? So use, and then we're using the file loader, and we want to specify the name of the files that have been loaded. And so we can just use the name of the file that we're loading and the files extension. And then same with the others. We want to exclude our node modules. And that looks good. Continuing on, now we'll want to specify the plugins that we're using. So plugins, and then we'll want to have an array of plugins. And first we'll use the new mini CSS extract plugin. And we don't need to pass any options to this. But for the HTML Webpack plugin, we'll want to pass some options in. And we'll want to first have our new template file. And so we'll resolve that using path.resolve, and then the directory name, and then the what we're loading. So you can see it's in public and then index.html. So public and then index.html. And I believe that is good. And in this index.html file, we can get rid of some of this stuff, so all of that. And then we can get rid of the favicon. And to actually load this favicon, we can specify that in the options. So specify favicon, and then same, we can just use this path resolve. And if we look in our path, you can see that it is favicon.ico. So we just changed the file name, so favicon.ico. And now we need to specify the output of our template. So we'll just say index.html. And I think that this Webpack config is pretty good to get you going. Just does the basics. If you need to add any extra stuff, you can just look it up and find what you need. Continuing on, and now we'll want to remove no omit. And this is because we're using Webpack to actually pack the TypeScript. And you would remove this if you're using Webpack or Parcel or some other thing to actually take your TypeScript and load it in. And we're using, TS loader. And so you can just remove no omit. Actually, you do need to remove it, or the Webpack won't work. That should be good. So open your terminal and type just like we specified in package.json, run start and then dev. And that should start our Webpack dev server. And if we open the web browser and then head over to the thing specified, you can see that our React app is now running on the dev server. And that looks good. If you have any questions or if I made any mistakes, leave a comment below and I will fix it. Thank you.